I'm Jessica Vega-Peterson, Chair of Multnomah County. I welcome you to today's State of the County event, our chance to talk about big challenges facing Multnomah County and how we're going to rise together to meet them. I'm a proud East Portlander and Latina, and these things ground my commitment to equity and serving all of our communities. I know in this challenging moment, we have the opportunity to work closely together, resetting relationships across the county and region. With so many issues to prioritize, our biggest leadership opportunities may be in how we work together to meet people at critical junctures and then help them find the support, resources, solutions, and abundance they need. In my first 4 months in office, I've joined employees across departments to learn more about the work we do and the way we do it. I've spoken with you at community celebrations, groundbreakings, listening sessions, and neighborhood and business forums throughout our county. My $3.5 billion executive budget shares my priorities and funds big initiatives like Housing Multnomah Now, a plan that unifies efforts to address unsheltered homelessness, crime prevention focused on car and retail theft, gun violence reduction efforts, critical behavioral health supports for students and those with acute needs, and commitments to equity, like building the next stage of our workforce equity strategic plan. Today, I appreciate the time to be with you. I'm confident that together, we'll have the resilience to face tough challenges and the partnership to build a community where everyone who needs help finds it and has the opportunity to rise and thrive.
Extra minutes. Good afternoon or good evening, everybody. Welcome to Franklin High School. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Guadalupe Guerrero. It's my extreme honor to lead the Portland Public Schools as superintendent. I consider that a huge privilege, also an urgent responsibility to support the nearly 44,000 students and families who entrust us to educate and care for their students and ensure that they have a positive school experience and that they have that opportunity to thrive. I'd like to extend, first of all, my appreciation to Franklin High School's principal, Chris Frazier. There you are. Thank you, Principal Fraser, for hosting us here today. I'm so grateful for your continued leadership and that of all of our 86 school leaders who, I'm confident, tirelessly and with incredible dedication work to serve every day, every one of our PPS students. Children and youth, families and partnership, that's at the heart of what I believe are our shared goals, objectives, and agendas. It's what they need to keep at the center. children and youth because I believe their well-being is our collective concern, our shared interests. Multnomah County and its communities can only ensure its children and youth thrive if the school system is a strong one. Any community that aspires to have all of its children thrive needs to make sure that its public schools, the wraparound supports, and the safety nets are all in place in order for youth to thrive, particularly in this post-pandemic environment. Children and youth are exhibiting amplified mental and behavioral health, social and emotional needs that we have to try to address in our school system and count on other support services to help provide critical help. And that's where families and partnerships come in. Many of our families are struggling to survive, many are physically leaving the region, and many are seeking to count on much needed supports. And on the theme of partnership, I am so thrilled that I have, and that Portland Public Schools has continued to have, a partner in Chair Jessica Vega-Peterson. And Multnomah County. Chair Vega-Peterson shares our urgency. I'm confident about this children and family agenda. As a commissioner, she fought for the Preschool for All program to expand and strengthen our Sun Schools partnership. She's now proposed a budget that will double available preschool spots and add $10 million to preschool spaces. She personally and the county collectively have been consistent partners in youth violence prevention, working to help us develop summer programming that offers meaningful and positive, productive summer experiences to at-risk children and youth. In a region as expensive as ours, where the costs for preschool have skyrocketed and available slots become harder and harder to find, in the context of early literacy rates in Oregon and elsewhere, we aspire to raise a program like Preschool for All is absolutely critical to making sure all of our youngest scholars are as kindergarten ready as possible. As leader of the state and the region's largest school system, that is an objective that is shared all across the state. So thank you, Chair Vega-Peterson, for your commitments to our continued partnership and to the children and the families in our region. Your decision to host your first State of the County here at Franklin High and PPS, just another example of those continued partnerships and commitments. So before we have Chair Vega-Peterson share her remarks, I want to introduce another committed supporter of our region's children and families, Bobby Regan, who served herself 3 terms on the Portland Public Schools School Board. And is very active now with Portland City Club. She's been instrumental in bringing today's event to life. So please join me in welcoming Bobby Regan to the stage.
Thank you, Superintendent Guerrero, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bobby Regan, a long-time former member of the Portland School Board and a longer-time volunteer and past board member with the City Club of Portland. It's my pleasure to produce today's program and to welcome you all. As we begin, we want to acknowledge that the land we are on is native land and was stolen from people who lived here for thousands of years. We recognize that many indigenous communities have called this place home, and there are current vibrant descendant communities still in place. Together, we recognize their unbreakable connections to this land and honor the resilience of their ancestors and the hope of future generations. More than 100 years ago, City Club hosted its first public forums and debates. While a lot has changed since then, City Club continues to strive to be an independent, nonpartisan organization committed to providing a space for people to gather and participate in lively conversations and research about the critical issues confronting our community. Today, as we host this State of the County program, we invite you to become a City Club member. Visit pdxcityclub.org/membership to learn more. City Club is proud to offer our programs at no cost to our members and non-members alike, and we believe the ability to participate in our democracy should not be conditioned on economic circumstances. Please consider becoming a member and making a donation today. I want to thank Portland Public Schools for their partnership today and give a special shout out to Jonathan Garcia, Chief of Staff, and to Josh Forsyth, Franklin High School's drama teacher, and to his many student volunteers who are working behind the scenes on this program. I also want to say thank you to Portland voters who have invested in Portland Public School high schools over the past many years including the beautiful remodel of Franklin High School and this theater space. Investing in our school infrastructure is a tangible and meaningful way to show our love, support, and commitment to our students and families. Thanks to City Club's communications manager, Kayla Kennett, for her support in making this event possible, and I am particularly grateful to Sarah Guest and other county staff who have been a joy to work with over the past few weeks. For today's program, Multnomah County Chair Jessica Vega Peterson will deliver her first State of the County speech. After her remarks, she will be joined by our moderator, Shabri Vickers, for an in-depth conversation. Shabri Vickers is Director of Equity Policy and Communications for Prosper Portland, the economic development agency for the city of Portland. Shabri is a third-generation Black Indigenous Oregonian and is a descendant of the Shoshone-Bannock tribes. Called one of Portland's super connectors by Portland Monthly Magazine, Shabri's passion for community is demonstrated by her commitment to public service and to her advocacy with many organizations. Shabri currently serves as a board member for NEA, Literary Arts, and the Oregon Sympathy. We are so grateful to Shabri for her participation today. Sorry, cracking myself up here. Okay. We'll wrap up our program today with an audience Q&A led by three Portland Public School students. Thank you in advance to Frankie Silverstein, a sophomore at Franklin High School who will serve as next year's student representative to the school board, to Byrony McMahon, a senior at Cleveland High School who is this year's student representative to the school board. Thank you, Byrony. And to Sophie McEwen, a Franklin High School senior who serves on the mock trial and Constitution law teams. Now, it is my great honor to introduce Jessica Vega Peterson, the first elected Latina chair of the Multnomah County Commission. Multnomah County encompasses the largest population of Oregon's 36 counties. Close to 850,000 people call Multnomah County home, yet it is the smallest of Oregon's counties in terms of geographic territory. Chair Vega Peterson oversees a budget of $3.5 billion and more than 5,500 county employees who provide safety net services for seniors and disabled people, animal services, assessment and taxation, community justice, courts, elections, bridges, health services, jails, libraries, marriage licenses and passports, school and community partnerships. The county also oversees the budgets of the Multnomah County Sheriff, District Attorney, and Auditor, all of whom are independently elected leaders. Vega Peterson serves on a board with 4 elected county commissioners, all women. Vega Peterson's former county commission seat representing Southeast Multnomah County will likely be filled by the winner of next week's election. We encourage you all to please vote. As a Multnomah County Commissioner, Vega Peterson led a historic effort to expand early childhood education and championed the successful campaign to provide universal preschool to Multnomah County 3- and 4-year-olds. Previously, she was elected as the first Latina to serve in the Oregon House of Representatives. In the legislature, she fought for issues such as paid sick leave, pay equity, raising the minimum wage to improve the lives of women and working families in Oregon, and clean, sustainable climate initiatives. Please join me in welcoming Multnomah County Chair, Jessica Vega Peterson.
Good evening, everyone. It is so wonderful to be here tonight. I want to start off by thanking Portland Public Schools, Superintendent Guerrero, and the Franklin School community for the opportunity to have my first State of the County address in your beautiful, beautiful theater, and really appreciate the chance to join you to talking about our shared priorities. So this is my very first State of the County address. It's also the first time I've ever written a speech entirely in ChatGPT, so we'll see how that goes. I am really thrilled to be hosting it in person, the first time in 3 years that it has been done in person, especially in this building, which was one of the first to be modernized by the 2012 PPS school bond, and this is what investing in our schools can do. We know that Franklin High School, like all of our schools, is filled with promise, learning, enrichment, and empowerment. And this building has already seen this community through difficult times. We have the opportunity tonight to be in this strong school community while we're rebuilding and remaking our commitments following the COVID-19 pandemic. All of the students at Franklin have been impacted by these times, as have students and families across Multnomah County. You've worked through the difficulties of online instruction and social isolation. Many of your families have struggled. I know the impacts of these disruptions, and I appreciate your resiliency and your perseverance. And to the teachers and school administrators who've been tireless in supporting the youth and their families, I want you to know how much we see you, how much we appreciate you, and how valuable your commitment continues to be. I want to thank the Franklin student body, Principal Frazier, and your staff for helping make this happen. Thank you so very much. And I want to thank, again, the superintendent and his staff for all of the time and energy and support for Multnomah County in hosting today's events and in our many collaborations that we have as partners. I also want to thank Bobby and City Club of Portland, who's been a longtime partner of Multnomah County, for helping to host and produce this event tonight. I appreciate you joining us again this year in a new venue, in a new format, to help bring people together, to help improve our civic discourse. And I also want to recognize and appreciate the Board of Multnomah County Commissioners who are here tonight. Thank you so much for being here. Commissioner Sharon Myron, Commissioner Sushil Jayapal, Commissioner Diane Rosenbaum, and Commissioner Lori Stegman. Thank you for joining me tonight, and thank you for all of your partnership and service to Multnomah County. I want to thank everyone in this audience who's here tonight. We have so many people from the community here. I see people who I've known from my very first days of working on the Hazelwood Neighborhood Association in East Portland who are here tonight. I see so many young people's families from the Franklin community. I see so many employees of Multnomah County who are here tonight, so thank you for all you do and thank you for being here tonight. I also see colleagues from other jurisdictions, representatives from community-based organizations, and members of the public who have joined us either here in person or who are watching the live stream to learn more about Multnomah County at this pivotal time. The state of the county is one of the few times the community is gathered in such a large forum to consider who we are and who we can be at this moment in our history. This follows weeks of intense work at Multnomah County to create a county budget, reviewing budget priorities, engaging community, hearing from our departments, all to create the chair's executive budget. As a board, we are now holding public briefings and connecting more deeply with the community around our specific priorities for the next fiscal year. I hope you'll consider joining us for one of our upcoming community budget hearings, taking this place virtually, in person, and in a hybrid format. The first one is tomorrow night, May 10th, also on May 17th and May 31st. Your voices are needed in our work and in our investments. Because as we emerge from the pandemic and into a city remade by social unrest, homelessness, economic disparity, and disconnection, we have an increasing need for a social fabric that cares for the most vulnerable. That is what Multnomah County does, cares for the most vulnerable with integrity and commitment. And that's what you do alongside us in every way that you're connected to your community and to our shared work. Through this work, I know that a more just recovery is possible and more justice is possible. Because justice starts in the ways that we connect with each other to co-create a safety net that ensures everyone has what they need to live, rise, and thrive. This is a time of transition and possibilities, with major changes in leadership across the state, the region, and Multnomah County. We meet 2023 with new learnings and opportunities resulting from changes that have taken place since the pandemic began. I see these changes as mandates to reset our priorities and our partnerships. When I ran for this office, my priorities were grounded in my strong belief in the importance of giving everyone an opportunity to succeed, a fair chance to live, rise, and thrive. This chance starts at the very beginnings of our lives, with investments in strong family connections, and an education that supports the whole person, and a community that respects and reflects who you are. In our world today, that's not always possible, but I believe it should be. A fair chance means you have the basic needs of safety, shelter, health, clean air and water, and opportunities for a fair wage and an equitable workplace. We live in a county where inequality is at the highest that it's been in decades, where gun violence has overtaken car accidents as the #1 killer of young people, where life expectancy along with birth rates are falling. I agree with Superintendent Guerrero that we have a children and family crisis that we must work together to solve, which is one of the many reasons I am so proud of the partnership between Multnomah County and Portland Public Schools, as well as all of our school districts across the county. I know those of you living right here in the Franklin school community have dealt with these issues firsthand, including recent acts of community violence. I know this all too well myself, as the mom of teenagers living in the same house in the Hazelwood neighborhood in East Portland for almost 20 years. This community is made up of students from families across a wide area of Southeast Portland that was a part of District 3, which I served as commissioner for 6 years. And I can tell you, I love the chance representing you as county chair just as much as I did as county commissioner. Because one of the things that I know for sure is that your situation and access to the things that you need should be the same, no matter what zip code you live in, no matter what part of the county that you call home. That is why the investments in my proposed $3.5 billion fiscal year 24 budget are designed to help us continue our regional recovery from the pandemic and shore up the systems we need to build the future for everyone in Multnomah County, a future that everyone deserves. The complex issues we face demand bold and collaborative leadership that brings our community together to solve big problems. And we'll do that best through partnership, not just around our investments for the next fiscal year, but in the ways that we make good on these investments. Regional and jurisdictional coordination is more important than ever, especially in our work to address homelessness, behavioral health issues, economic and climate justice, and community safety. For too long, we've been having a conversation in individual jurisdictions that is not serving the needs of our community members. People who live in our community shouldn't be asked to consider whose jurisdiction their problem falls under or who's responsible for helping them solve it. Instead, our individual governments must work closely together as partners to focus our shared priorities and values and collaborate to respond to the leadership inherent in the communities that we serve. This year's proposed budget takes that into consideration, bringing forward new partnerships and continuing to support connections to our community that have been a cornerstone for our work for years. I do want to take a moment to acknowledge Mayor Wheeler, who is here tonight. Thank you so much, Mayor Wheeler, for being here. When I talk about the importance of partnerships, I want to focus on our partnership with the City of Portland. There is so much work that our community needs us to do well that is really the result of a partnership between Multnomah County and the City of Portland. We know, I think most readily we know about the Joint Office of Homeless Services and the important work that's being done there, but every issue, whether it's community safety, whether it's transportation investments, whether it's looking at how we are designing our tax system and how we're promoting economic development, so many of these things the city and the county have to work together well in. And I just want to acknowledge how much I've appreciated the partnership of the mayor, the partnership of his staff. I will say that I think our staff talks like on an almost daily basis on all of the things and all of the work that we have done. And I feel so optimistic about our shared priorities as we move forward in this work together. And we know we're not always going to agree exactly on everything, but we have shared respect for our positions, for the work we do, and appreciation of the way that we are approaching this work and what we're bringing to it. And so I just want to thank you, Mayor, for being here tonight. So when I came into this office, I stated clearly that addressing our homelessness crisis would be my #1 priority. As I move into this work, my commitment is that every strategy, every program and initiative is rooted in partnership, accountability, and urgency to meet this moment. At the board meetings, I always say, don't forget to silence your electronic devices. I forgot to do that today. We all know that too many of our neighbors in Multnomah County are living on the streets without shelter and the service needed to stabilize and address basic needs and often behavioral health challenges. Without a pathway to supportive long-term housing or with housing instability, living at risk each month of losing their home. We have too many people who are in that situation. Portland is 24th in the nation for the rate of homelessness among cities with over 100,000 people, accounting for 1/4 of the homeless population in the state of Oregon. This is a statistic that we have the power and the will to change, which is why we're working closely in partnership with the City of Portland and the State of Oregon as emergency management and regional jurisdiction partners in a multi-agency coordinating group focused on reducing unsheltered homelessness. This MAC group will coordinate an infusion of supportive housing services dollars and state dollars to follow through on our Housing Multnomah Now initiative. Led by the Joint Office through the MAC group, this is a bold $32 million 12-month plan to unify local and state efforts to reduce unsheltered homelessness, starting in Portland Central City. It is a solution that our community needs now, one that will move those living unsheltered in a specific geographic area directly into supportive housing. This program uses a by-name list and a targeted timeline to provide options, support, and a path connecting people directly to housing so we stop the shuffle of moving people from one location to another as they're living outside. We are close to confirming our first geographic site in the Central City. From there, Housing Multnomah Now will expand to helping those unhoused in East County. This combined investment will rehouse 545 households and create 140 shelter beds by the end of this year. Our plan includes incentives for landlords to increase available housing, guaranteed rental subsidies, and stability-focused wraparound services to help keep people housed long-term. And Housing Multnomah Now focus on housing placement supports and strengthens our shelter system. Funding devoted to this effort will help limit the length of stay in all shelters by eliminating bottlenecks that keep people from being housed, which means that across our system, we'll make better use of the beds we already have and provide safe sleep options for more people in a time when they need them the most. Overall, we are investing $128 million for housing placements, rent assistance, and support services to meet those experiencing homelessness on the streets, in vehicles, in shelter beds, and assist them to move into permanent housing and help them stay there. And we're investing $87 million in strategies that provide safety on and off the streets in alternative shelters, motel-based shelters, and vital outreach on the ground every day. Should all beds come online as budgeted and predicted, including all beds funded through other sources, this will support more than 2,500 beds of year-round shelter with wraparound services this calendar year. But all of the work to address unsheltered homelessness depends on knowing who is in need of shelter, services, and permanent housing. It all depends on good data. Creating the data that helps us track and inform and hold ourselves accountable was job #1 when I took office in January. Even before announcing Housing Multnomah Now, my team began to convene a regional systems data task force to increase our accuracy and accountability. These long overdue steps will give the public new, accessible, consistent information, as well as expectations around how we're serving those living on our streets and spending vital taxpayer funds. This includes sustained work with the Built for Zero initiative, part of an ongoing effort to build system transformation into the ways we collect, use, and disseminate information. Improved data collection and reporting will enable the Joint Office to prioritize resources, test investments in the system, and understand whether its efforts are truly helping to solve chronic homelessness. All of these initiatives are key to meeting the urgency of this moment, increasing our ability to partner with the city and the state, and building on the states of emergency declared by both. Another big milestone that we had this year was hiring Dan Field as the new director of the Joint Office of Homeless Services. I've charged Dan with putting together the strategic planning and focusing on the transparency and accountability that I expect for him and for the department, and I'm really looking forward to having him on board there. We know that this is vital work because the people living unhoused in Multnomah County cannot wait one more day. And the work that we are doing to support those in need connects the dots inside the lives for individual people. We're thrilled to have one of those people here with us today in this audience. As we continue to engage people with lived experience in our work to address homelessness, it's people like Dahl Crane who inspire me. Yay! After growing up in Portland and raising her two sons here, domestic violence led Dahl to losing her home and spending 10 years without stable housing or a place to call home. She spent time living in an RV, worked the sugar beet harvest in North Dakota, and returned to Oregon to live camping and unsheltered near 1,000 acres and the Sandy River. Dahl generally had a good experience with law enforcement and was finally able to stabilize through housing and an opportunity to join Multnomah County's partner, Cultivate Initiatives, who I know are here tonight. Thank you, Cultivate. Dahl developed their internship program, overseeing work funded through the Joint Office to connect with young community members, volunteering their time to support our homeless population. Dahl, you are an inspiration, and I am so grateful that you allowed me to share your story, and I'm so grateful for the work that you do. Thank you so much. Multnomah County's budget and priorities are not built in a silo. They're built alongside many jurisdictional and community partners who share these investments, because our county is built just as much by community members who call Multnomah County home as for them, which is why we've looked across the board at how we can be a more inclusive, equitable, thoughtful partner. While no single budget, plan, or program can eradicate the interconnected root causes that contribute to community crises, I know Multnomah County has a meaningful leadership role to play. To aid this, we're boosting pay for critical human service providers to address workforce and capacity issues. These are partners providing shelter services, outreach, and assistance for seniors, youths, and families. This investment recognizes how vital and challenging this work is and responds with $1.5 million for a 3% increase in wages, along with more than $500,000 to stabilize partnerships and contracts. And as we take care of people, we must support our animals too. Our animal shelter needs to be more fully invested in. In a response for a need for stabilization, we're bringing on a much-needed 31% increase in animal care staffing. This increased funding will also facilitate the completion of a systems-based overhaul both for the people who work in our shelter and the animals who need and deserve the best care possible. We're investing $3 million across departments in gun violence prevention, continuing upstream support and downstream intervention to help keep communities safe. We're committed as a county to family stabilization efforts and resource building to address the root causes and break the cycles of violence. More than ever, we are taking a one-county approach to our community safety investments, spreading them across the Department of Community Justice, the District Attorney's Office, the Sheriff's Office, the Department of Human Services, and our Health Department. This approach will have the most impact on the underlying causes that lead to community violence and behavioral health struggles. An example is how we're setting up our new regional retail and auto theft task force through the Multnomah County District Attorney's Office. Since 2019, we've been experiencing a historic 68% increase in auto thefts, with an 80% increase in cases referred to the district attorney. To capitalize on good work already being done, Multnomah County and the City of Portland are co-funding this theft task force to place 2 new district attorneys, deputy district attorneys, directly inside police precincts. I was proud to stand beside the DA, the mayor, and others last week to announce this new initiative. Retail and auto theft rings will be investigated using coordinated efforts across law enforcement teams, investigation units, and jurisdictions. We're taking a regional approach to this problem, so every jurisdiction is involved in bringing their best practices and resources to the table. We have to continue the work of having a one-county philosophy, whether we're investing in upstream practices or addressing urgent issues with the attention and resources that they deserve. Last year, our community voted for significant changes in how we elect local leaders. And in response to the voters' mandate to convert to ranked choice voting, we're making sure Multnomah County Elections has the resources for that implementation, with close to a $1 million investment in elections infrastructure and expanded voter outreach and engagement. And we're also creating the capacity to connect people to immediate services when they need them the most. This includes $2.5 million for daily operations at the Behavioral Health Resource Center, including 32 new shelter beds and 19 bridge housing beds this spring. The critical work, thank you. The critical work at the BHRC meets a vital need in our community for behavioral health stabilization. But the BHRC's programs are just one piece of a system-wide puzzle, which is why we're also investing in new capacities to support community members stabilizing from acute intoxication with $2 million new dollars for our Behavioral Health Emergency Coordination Network, or BEACON. These are important pieces in the overall system of behavioral health, but they're only a part of the larger work of investing in and building the scaffolding around the system that the county is engaging in with the wide network of partners created to success in the behavioral health field. We are committed to serving our community, our youth, and family in so many ways. One is prioritizing upstream mental and behavioral health supports, like our 38 school-based mental health sites across 6 school districts, including 6 that are culturally specific and 11 that are located across the Portland Public School System. We're also pleased to house 5 of our 9 student health centers in PPS, including right here at Franklin, which I had a chance to tour, which provides acute and preventative care to students in need. And this year's proposed budget expands the pool of bilingual, bicultural mental health providers with a pipeline that pairs interns with youth engagement specialists and after-school programs for middle and high schoolers in 13 schools. Yay. We also looked at the entire life cycle of the school day, especially with Sun Community Schools, Multnomah County's after-school programs. These enriching programs, many of them are culturally specific or offered in partnership with culturally responsive organizations, support healthy development and increase family stability. Our commitment to Sun this year supports a request for proposal process to re-engage many Sun school providers and improve service hubs. And we're allocating $250,000 to maintain 4 existing Sun school sites that would otherwise shutter, as well as making investments in an updated Sun database and expansion of our summer meal program. Our summer programs will continue too, with 41 participating sites in nearly every neighborhood across Multnomah County. As Superintendent Guerrero brought up as well, there's so much to be excited about Preschool for All, because we know our investments in early childhood education pay this community back many times over in educational achievement and stability, with every $1 spent today resulting in $7 in future savings. We passed a measure in 2020 by a wide margin to fund Multnomah County's Universal Preschool program, which is already serving more than 700 families this school year. And in this proposed budget, we'll be doubling our number of available preschool slots in the 2023-24 school year, offering 1,400 that go on a priority basis to those families that we can impact the most. If you're interested, you can apply now for a spot this fall. Families can choose up to 6 participating preschools, including centers, schools, or licensed home-based care. Applications will remain open until May 31st and open again for waitlist spots on a rolling basis in the summer. The fact that Multnomah County has made an investment upstream to prioritize universal preschool creates a 2-generational solution that we're already seeing pay dividends. One example of this two-generational solution comes to us from Marilyn Cha and her family, including 4-year-old daughter Camila, who are here in the audience tonight. When we asked about their experiences with Preschool for All, Mom Marilyn told us, "As our daughter was getting older, we wanted to enroll her in preschool. We visited preschools and were provided quotes and found ourselves astonished by the high rates. We were very fortunate that the opportunity to attend Ladybug Academy came up, and we applied because otherwise, how would we have done it? We were very happy when we were one of the applicants selected. I love that my daughter is getting the necessary education and being sociable. Being an only child, we worried that she was going to have issues socializing with peers. That has not been the case. She enjoys going to school and can't wait to see her friends every day. Having her enroll has meant everything for me and my family. It has helped my husband and I with our work and helped develop my daughter educationally. This has been a success, and we're looking forward to re-enrolling her in next year as well." This is what Universal Preschool is about. It helps parents be able to work. It helps bright, vibrant kids who might not otherwise have had this chance to meet their peers, socialize, and develop educationally. These families, their dreams and progress are worth our investment, and I'm so glad we're making it. It was also a priority for me to add more than $17 million of capital to the Preschool for All Facilities Fund to help build on the promised infrastructure to make sure that we can deliver on the promise of universal preschool. These dollars fund infrastructure projects for home-based providers, child care centers, nonprofit organizations, and school districts. We've also been thoughtful of who benefits from these investments. Providers who have the least access to capital will be prioritized with a focus on Black, Indigenous, and providers of color. We know this investment in preschool opportunities will create social, emotional, and educational impact that can change what's possible in the lives of our graduating class of 2040 and beyond. In coming into the role of county chair, the work that I need to leave internally at our organization is just as important to me as the work that I'm leading externally. I want to make sure that Multnomah County is an employer of choice for our 5,500 current employees and the many job seekers throughout this region. That means our ways of supporting, serving, and collaborating with our colleagues must be equitable and responsive. This year, we deepened the way we infuse equity into our budgeting process, using an equity and empowerment lens that helps us analyze the root causes of racial disparities, shift the way we make decisions to center equity, and align our work more fully with our values. We also employed a budget equity tool for the first time that required that each investment demonstrate alignment with equity and inclusion values and initiatives. And we're adding resources through the new position in our Office of Diversity and Equity to further Multnomah County's Workforce Equity Strategic Plan. Substantial workforce equity investments continue this year as we revise our strategic plan, especially to increase feedback, culturally specific leadership development, and more equitable onboarding and training. We are also revisioning Multnomah County's mission, vision, and values by engaging employees and partners from across the county to revise these foundational ideas for the first time in over a decade. These are vehicles for progress towards an organizational culture that prioritizes more safety, trust, belonging, and respect for all of us. Plus, we're keeping up with the technology needs of today by modernizing our IT and data tracking, putting a down payment on a website redesign, and increasing infrastructure for future of work needs. We know our workforce is changing, with 40% of the 5,500 county employees at all levels coming from BIPOC communities, including manager and director levels that used to have much less diversity. I am committed to making sure we are deepening our engagement and responsiveness with all Multnomah County employees so our workforce is truly supported to thrive too. And we need to continue to deepen engagement in community-led spaces. The past few weekends, I've had the pleasure of attending work sessions at the June Key Delta Center and PCC Cascade campus to consider next steps around environmental and economic justice initiatives. These rooms were filled with community partners and advocates. They were also filled with thoughtful engagement, great questions, and strategic partnerships from representatives of the very communities any plan that we co-create will most impact. I'm excited to see the ways we're looking together with fresh eyes at these convenings, because we're looking not only at the processes we use to develop strategic plans, we're listening to community insights to better understand what is needed, where our gaps are, and how Multnomah County can be the best partner in our shared work to fill them. Inside each investment we make to build Multnomah County from here, we commit to true engagement as listeners, conveners, and collaborators. Because an equitable recovery is not possible until the community is engaged at every level of our work. And you here tonight are part of that community. An equitable recovery is more possible because we are in this work together. Tonight, I want to thank each of you in this room, each of you joining us via live stream, each of you focused on how to shape our county now and into the future. Thank you again to Franklin High School and Principal Frazier, Portland Public Schools and Superintendent Guerrero, and Portland City Club and the City Club of Portland Board for being incredible partners in helping us bring the state of the county tonight. There is not a person joining us tonight who doesn't have an opportunity, just as much as any of us do, to lift up our community. I appreciate the work that you're already doing, and I hope in response to community needs and investment, you're inspired to do even more. I look forward to this coming year together, as each day provides us with new chances to make a bigger difference. And now I am pleased to welcome moderator Shabri Vickert to the stage to join me for a Q&A part of this. Thank you all very much for being here tonight.
Hello, hello. Good evening, everyone. Do you want to hold that? As Jessica and Bobby mentioned, I'm Shabri Vickers. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm absolutely excited to be here with you all today. Let's give Chair Jessica Vega-Peterson one more round of applause for her first State of the County. So I'm just going to tell you we're running a little bit over time, so I've made an executive decision. I have a few prepared questions, but because we're at a school and because I have an 18-year-old and I want to center student voice, we are going to defer our questions first to students when we get to the audience questions. So I know we have a few prepared students who are ready, and then I'd ask anyone else to defer your question to a student first, and we'll go with that.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, so first question. You've just completed your first 100 days of being chair, and I'd love to understand more about the wisdom that you've gleaned from community directly from community, both in your time as commissioner previously and as your time as chair now. And with that wisdom and information and learning that you've gleaned, what do you believe to be what our community needs right now? And what role does Multnomah County play in that?
That's like 7 questions.
We don't have much time. I had to get them all in at once.
So, no, I think that's a good thing. You know, in all my time, you know, I've been doing public service work for about over 10 years now. And I think what I've learned is that the best policies, the best solutions come about when they are co-created with community, when they are co-created with the people who are impacted most by whatever policy or program that you are working on. I've seen that at the state level, I have seen that at the local level, and I know that that is true. There are things that people who, you know, are experts in the field, or, you know, so-called experts or electeds, you know, think that they know about something, but it's not until you really engage with the people who are most impacted that you understand all the facets of what you're working on. And so for me, that relates directly into the work, and especially some of the work that we've done even in the first 100 days. For instance, with the reset that we're doing with Multnomah County Animal Services, you know, we have had community members for years who have been talking about some of the issues, some of the problems that exist there. And so it was very important to me that a full focus, a full part of the review that we were doing is all about taking in partner and stakeholder and community feedback and input into what needs to happen there. And that's you know, something that I believe in, and something that will be a hallmark of my work as I move ahead as county chair.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'd love to ask about prioritization of community voice. So you face a constituency that is incredibly loud, at times upset and angry, especially regarding the livability issues our community is dealing with, along with needing to recognize the needs of those who may not have direct access to you, your staffers, other commissioners, and the county process. Specifically, I'm talking about Black, Indigenous, Latina, Pan-Asian, Pacific Islander community and voices. So what is your vision for the role of the county in the midst of so many livability issues top of mind with so much noise?
Yeah, you know, there are so many competing voices, there are so many competing priorities, but I think we always have to take a look at who is being impacted the most and where we're seeing the most disparities. And when you think about the work that the county does, whether it's in health, whether it's in human services, whether it's in, you know, access to government, we see disparities in our Black, Indigenous, and Latina people of color communities across the board. And so that is where we need to focus the work, and that's internally and externally. It's about inclusively leading with race, right? Because we know that as we're investing in the communities that need the help the most, we're also lifting up the lives of all of our community members. And I think that's really critically important. You know, one of the things that I've seen being on the county board for 7 years is that the county does make very concerted, intentional effort to engage voices in ways that they haven't before, and make them a part of the process. I think we have a lot to improve on that, and I'm excited for that work. But when you see how people really want to be part of the solution, even people who are frustrated, even people who might be fearful of changes that are happening, you know, they really want to be a part of the solution. They want to make sure their voices are being heard, and it's really incumbent upon government to make sure that they can do that.
Thank you. I absolutely agree that it's incumbent for government to center those voices. I'm going to switch gears a bit here. The county, as you know, serves as the public health authority. So how are you and your team really leading directives and preparing and planning for what might come next? After COVID, I think we learned a lot of lessons. And how are you preparing the community with the responsibility that comes as being the public health authority?
Yeah, that's a really critical question, and I think we saw the county's role of the public health authority, you know, really come to the forefront during COVID. I think it was a surprise to many people that it was actually the county who was the lead agency in responding to the COVID crisis from the health perspective. And you know, really, it's what we saw with the COVID pandemic is something that, you know, public health folks have been saying for years, like, this is coming and we have to be prepared. So, as we look as where we are now, as we're coming out of COVID, as COVID becomes more of less of a pandemic, more of an endemic factor in our lives, we have to be, we can't disinvest completely, and that is something that needs to happen at the federal level. It needs to happen at the state level. But there is work being done here in Oregon as we look at the public health modernization and what that means in terms of the resources we have, the approaches that we have to addressing community public health issues, and as the local public health authority, that is work that Multnomah County not only needs to be engaged in, but also to stay leading in.
Thank you. I want to go a little bit deeper in that. So, when we think about COVID, there were so many other aspects of public health that weren't really addressed because we were addressing that which was the emergency. So, are there any other public health measures and strategies that we should be talking about that were being missed as we continue to recover, not just from COVID, but really thinking about those issues that didn't get talked about?
Yeah, one action that this board took, prior to the pandemic, how time is, was declaring racism a public health emergency, right? We know that there are very fundamental inequities in our society that have existed for decades that have really generational impacts on people's health, on people's longevity, on people's ability to really to thrive, and and that word thrive from the health aspect as well. So we have to be continuing, when we think about public health, we have to be continuing to think upstream and how that work is really being done, and making sure that we're making those investments as well. So I talk about early education, but it even starts before that when we talk about some of the work that is happening through our healthy birth initiatives, with maternal health, having healthy babies, supporting breastfeeding, all of these early things that are really important because we know that makes a huge difference. And and I think that we have to be continuing investing again in really equitable ways. We also have to look, and I know we're running short of time, but we also, I don't want to not talk about the behavioral health crisis that we have as well, because when we think about the stress that we've been through with the pandemic, when we think about the isolation and the anxiety that so many people experienced and are still experiencing, that is something that we can't take our eye off that ball. That's why we're making so many investments in behavioral health services across the board, whether it is in early childhood, whether it is in our school-based mental health services, whether it is in mental health supports that we're giving to adults and seniors, right? And we really know that a key piece of that is missing and that we need to continue to invest on is culturally specific and responsive behavioral health supports.
Yeah, thank you. I want to dig a little bit into the budget, and we talk about investing, a few things are true. Many of the ARPA funds are dwindling, and so you've recently released your executive budget, and I'd love to know how you're investing in programs that were elevated during COVID but are going away. The funds are going away, the issues aren't. And how do you and your fellow and the commissioners rise up to support community with issues that are still very much important to them, but you have to make hard decisions from a budget standpoint?
Yeah, that was the coming in mid-cycle in a budget season is hard enough, and then coming in mid-cycle in a budget season when you're losing, I think it's like $113 million of federal funding for investment. I'm looking to our budget director to make sure that was the right number. Is also incredibly hard because, what the federal investment did, in my opinion, is to really support services and investments that they should have been making for years, whether that is expanded, food benefits for people, whether that was a child care tax credit, whether that was wraparound services for people who, when they get sick, also need help with groceries, also need help with rent, all of these things. And we know that those impacts of COVID, we had such disparate impacts of COVID, right? We know that people who were well off before COVID are just as well off, sometimes better well off than they were before, and people who were not are even further behind than they were. And so it's not like the need has gone away. What we did, and what I did in looking at this budget was to see what are those investments that really respond to those issues that kind of rose to the forefront during COVID and that are still a part of our communities. So whether that is talking about community safety and gun violence, whether that is talking about looking at the impact on our children with mental health supports, whether we're talking about how we can really provide services for people experiencing homelessness, because we know those numbers went up so much during COVID. It's doubled in that time. And so we really, so we had to make hard decisions, but we really tried to focus on the most urgent issues that are still with us post-pandemic. I will say, we have to have a wider and broader community conversation, though, about addressing some of the fundamental lacks in our community and for our communities that we need additional investment from the federal government, from the state government, and that's something that we need to continue to advocate for.
Thank you. I mentioned earlier that we're going to center student voice, and one of our students actually serves as the student representative for the PPS board meeting that is starting now. And while we know that Bryony might be a bit late, we want to give you a chance to ask your question. So we'll go to you next.
Thank you very much. And I also just want to say thank you so much for providing this opportunity. I do have a board meeting to get to, but my question for you was, obviously we have seen a rise in gun violence in our community, and that's had a very significant impact on students. How does Multnomah County plan to use the investments in behavioral health services to target the mental health impacts that are a result of the increase in student and community violence that's occurring?
Yeah, thank you, Bryony. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I talked a little bit about the investment that we have made during the pandemic in school-based mental health supports. We actually expanded the mental health supports to junior and high school, or middle and high schools over the pandemic, because we know that the needs are so great. We have to continue, those are investments that we're going to continue to make at the county. We know that that is still there. And we also are supporting the work through investments in our SUN programs. And those are the Schools Uniting Neighborhoods. Those are community-based programs or school-based programs that really support our children with after-school investments, with summer programming to create stability and to create engagement, especially in areas where students need that the most. That really supplements what's happened during the school days, but provides that additional support. It was a real challenge during COVID to have schools closed, to not be able to engage. I'm also on the Portland Children's Levy Board, and we saw this with a lot of the organizations that we fund as well. And so continuing to invest in those, especially now as people are back in school, as a community we can come together, keeping those strong and keeping those investments whole is very important.
Thank you so much for that. I'm going to stay with children and family support. And you mentioned the Ladybug Daycare Group, a proud Black-owned small business, and we really appreciate the work that happens there. As it relates to Preschool for All, the initial taxing notification for Preschool for All was frustrating for many community members. What can you tell us about the impact so far that we should be excited about and some of the challenges that lie ahead?
Yeah, so I think we should be incredibly excited that we have 700 children in our community that have been able to experience joyful, quality preschool environment this year that otherwise wouldn't have had that opportunity. And they're able to, yay, yes. And they are able to have that experience in the environment that meets their needs, whether it is a public school system like our partners like PPS and David Douglas and Park Rose, whether it is in a school community like Kairos, who was able to start a preschool program thanks to Preschool for All, or whether it is in small center care or licensed home-based care, right? People have the choice to find out that environment that meets their family needs the best. I think it's also incredibly important to recognize the fact that one of the reasons we don't have enough daycare, my sister Natalie would be so mad that I just said daycare, that we don't have enough childcare, that we don't have enough early education centers, is that the wages in the field are pathetic. They are not enough to support living wages. So the fact that we have workers and providers of preschool for all programs that are actually making a living wage, making salaries comparable to public school kindergarten teachers, is incredibly important and able to continue to grow the pipeline of people who are coming into the field, people who see this as a real career opportunity. That is what we need. That is the type of investment you need in order to get to universal. And at the same time, you have to be doing the same thing with facilities. We don't have enough physical buildings, and so that's why those kinds of investments are so important as well. So, but the thing is, you know, it's so easy in this work to really just focus on the emergency in front of you, the crisis in front of you, because we know that there are so many people in crisis right now. We have to be making the upstream investments. We have to be making that change, that generational level change, so that in 20 years, we are not in the same situation or a worse situation than we are now, that we have made investments that truly value the humans' potential, their capacity to rise, their capacity to thrive. That is what Preschool for All does. That is what a lot of the work that the county does is about, but that is something I think people should be excited about.
Thank you. Yes. Now, talking about humans with potential, I'm going to go to some of the students that we have here because we are already way over. And while I have more questions, we'd love to hear from Sophie or Frankie, whoever wants to go first.
Hi. So my question is, how are youth voices being involved in the budgeting process, and how do you think the county can improve in terms of youth involvement?
Yes. So, the youth voice is very important. I would encourage students, I would encourage youth to come to our public board meetings because you have a chance to sign up, to testify, to have your voice heard in what you think our priorities are. We also have the Multnomah Youth Commission, which is it's a city and county, like really impressive group of young people from ages, I think it's like 13 to 24, who are able to focus on issues that are important to them. They have different priorities, and they actually engage very closely with the commissioners. The work that's happening there is even a city part for the Multnomah Youth Commission, and that work is important. It kind of went a little silent during COVID, but I'm really excited. Erica from the county runs that program, and that's another way. I will say one of the things that was a little frustrating about coming into the budget mid-cycle is that community engagement piece that I would like to see wasn't as fully fleshed out as I would have liked, really. Our budget process honestly starts like more in the fall, and so that's what I'm looking forward to as we go into our next budget cycle, is really having a fuller community engagement process, including with youth. But there are still opportunities to have your voice heard on this budget that we are considering right now, and those are at those public hearings.
Thank you. Sophie?
Hi, I would like to thank you for being allowed to be here today. I don't have places to be, so I'm the only one of us who's not trying to run somewhere. But I was wondering, in terms of, you talked a little bit about how the city and the county interact, and I mean, I would include the state in that, and like a lot of those issues where we're talking about budget at multiple different levels of government, and I know that's been an issue in the past of like, how do we all work towards issues that we all have our own perspectives on? So I was wondering if you could speak to like, how will the county continue to work with the city and the state on issues that we have beliefs on in terms of budget specifically?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question, and that's something that I think a lot of people, want to know about, because people want government to be working together to find solutions to our problems, right? Multnomah County itself is not going to be able to solve our problems. Really government itself, we need community, we need private sector, we need everybody working together on these issues. But at the very least, governments should be able to work well together. It should have functional relationships so that we are able to do our jobs that the public expects us to do, right? And so that was something that was incredibly important to me coming into this role, was about resetting the relationships, making sure that people knew that I was coming into this job of chair with the intention of working together in partnership, of being respectful for the role that people have, the work that everybody needs to get done, and being as transparent and communicative as possible about what Multnomah County can do, what we're expecting in partnership, but also listening to what our partners need from us and how they see us working together. And we've made some really great inroads, I think, at both the level with the city, with the state, the governor's office, on all of those things. And I'm really happy about where we are right now in our relationship. So thank you for that question.
Yes, a round of applause to our students for such fantastic questions. So we're a bit over. I have one last question, but before I do, I just want to say, we intended to take more questions from the audience, but I did ask Chair Vega-Peterson what way could folks engage and connect with her team directly. So if you have questions, you can go to mult.chair@multco.us. Again, that's mult.chair@multco.us. Feel free to reach out directly to Chair Vega-Peterson's staff, and I'm certain that they can get your questions answered. So, last question. We are already 15 minutes over, but this question for you is just in honor of this being your first State of the County address. So, Chair Vega-Peterson, what topic have we missed that you want to be certain Multnomah County residents are aware of right now?
That's a good question. I think, since it's my last question, I think what I want to do is really say, I am so optimistic about where we are right now in our county, in our city, and the potential that we have of coming out of COVID, where we had the disparate impacts I talked about, where we had racial reckoning that is long overdue, to take the experiences that we've all had and work together to really change things that have needed to be changed for a long time, to make the investments together, to address with just honesty, frankness, transparency, the challenges that we have, but dedicate ourselves to working towards that together. And that is something that I've found that people are responding to, people are eager for, like they are hungry for it. And that is something that is, that kind of focus on, aiming for excellence in what we do and how we serve the public, knowing that there are going to be mistakes made, but like being transparent about those and really working to improve the way that we are serving our community, the way that we are working together, so that we can create that Multnomah County, we can create that city, we can create that state where people do have the ability to thrive, and that we are addressing, issues that needed to be looked at and resolved for ages. And so I'm really excited for that. I'm actually really excited that I have a board that is so committed to taking on big challenges, to doing that big systemic work, to really looking closely at those issues and taking action and doing that in partnership with our community. So that's what I would say. I'm excited for this opportunity. I am honored and humbled to be the county chair, and I'm really excited for the work that's in front of us.
Thank you so much. Optimism and hope. That's a great thing that we need right now.
Thank you so much, Shabri.
So while that ends our formal program today, I just want to say I've appreciated being able to be your moderator. I want to ask folks to give a round of applause to Portland Public Schools, in particular the Franklin student-led crew who've helped us get through today. A big thank you to Bobby Regan and City Club for producing the event. And of course, thank you to all of you for being here with us today. Thank you to Chair Vega-Peterson for your candor. And I would leave you with one note. You are powerful. Your voice is powerful. Please use your voice and remember to vote. Please vote. If you don't know where your ballot is, reach out to Multnomah County Elections. They will help you with that. But please remember to vote in next week's election, and good night.
Thank you.